The night my daughter shouted across the dinner table, "No, doctor, you're coming to my show," started not with anger, but with the quiet dread I'd been carrying for months about losing control over my own plans. I had finally secured a specialist appointment, not a routine visit, not something that could be moved with a polite phone call. It took weeks of referrals, long holds with insurance, and 3 separate reschedules before the clinic confirmed the date. When they did, I circled it on the calendar by the refrigerator. I marked it with a small blue circle, almost invisible, but enough to remind me each morning it was mine. I didn't tell anyone. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created by the Her Chains Channel team, based on real-life situations to convey lessons about family, emotions, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. My name is Haley Caldwell. At my age, you learn which needs are allowed to exist and which ones make people uncomfortable. My daughter had never liked it when my life required adjustment. She preferred me available, flexible, and quiet, useful. Over the years, I'd learned that anything important to me became negotiable the moment it conflicted with her plans. That morning, I stood in front of the calendar longer than usual. I considered erasing the circle. I didn't. Instead, I closed the fridge and told myself I would keep the appointment no matter what happened at dinner. The house filled that evening with the familiar rhythm of her voice, her excitement about the upcoming show, the way her husband echoed every word as if rehearsed. I listened, nodded when expected, and focused on finishing my food. If I left the table early enough, maybe the topic wouldn't come up. I planned to go upstairs quietly. I planned to keep my bag by the door. I planned to protect that one morning that was finally about my health. What I hadn't planned for was how quickly a secret becomes a problem once someone decides your life belongs to them. Dinner unfolded the way it always did when my daughter had a show coming up fast. Loud and pointed in one direction. "I'm opening with the new piece," she announced, tapping her fork against the plate, the one the director liked. Her husband leaned back in his chair. "That's the smart move. You want them paying attention from the first minute." I nodded once. Out of habit. She turned toward him. "Not me. If this goes well, things change. I can feel it." "They always do when you're ready," he replied, confidence filling the space where doubt might have lived. No one asked how my day had gone. No one noticed I barely touched my food. "The guest list is solid," she continued. "People who matter. People who remember names." Her husband smiled. "This is your moment." I reached for my glass, buying time. "What time does the show start?" She glanced at me, briefly, as if noticing my question had slipped into her planning bubble. 7. "Why?" "No reason," I murmured. "Just wondering." She shrugged and turned back to her plate. "I need everyone there early. Support matters," her husband added. "Family showing up makes a statement." I felt that familiar tightening in my chest. Support in their world had always meant attending, adjusting, being available. Now, it had been weaponized, made into a demand. She pushed her chair back slightly, already shifting into planning mode. "We'll eat quick tomorrow, no distractions." I looked down at my hands, steady but tired, and realized I had been preparing myself to disappear from this table for years. I just hadn't known it until that moment. I stood to clear my plate, hoping the moment would pass. It didn't. My daughter looked up, eyes sharp with a thought she'd already decided on. "Tomorrow," she began, casual and firm. "You'll come with us early." I paused. "Early, so we can all arrive together," she continued. "It looks better?" Her husband glanced between us. "It matters who's seen walking in with her." I nodded slowly. "I won't be able to." The fork in her hand stopped midair. "Why not? I have a doctor's appointment." The word landed wrong. She laughed once. short and dismissive. Cancel it. It's not that kind of appointment. She leaned forward. Doctors reschedule all the time. This show doesn't. I met her eyes. I've waited months. Her expression hardened. That's not my problem. Her husband spoke up, voice smooth. You can go another day. This is important. I felt the weight of the table press in. This is important to me. She scoffed. You'll survive missing a single appointment, but an empty front row, it's more than I can bear. I'm not canceling, I replied. Steady. The room went quiet in a way that felt dangerous. She pushed her chair back an inch. You always do this. Do what make everything about you. She snapped. I need you there. I need to take care of my health. Her jaw tightened. You're being selfish. Her husband crossed his arms. You've always been flexible. Why change now? I inhaled slowly. Because I have to. She stood so fast the chair scraped the floor. No, doctor, she declared. You're coming to my show. I shook my head. I'm not. For a moment, she stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. I saw something shift behind her eyes, surprise giving way to anger. That was when I understood this wasn't about a schedule. It was about control, and I had just taken mine back. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain myself again. I just stayed where I was. No, I repeated. The word seemed to land heavier the second time. My daughter stared at me. Waiting for the follow-up, she was used to an excuse, a softening, a retreat. None came. Her husband let out a short breath. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest, I replied. She folded her arms. Lips pressed tight. You've always shown up when it mattered. I've shown up when I was needed, I corrected. That's the same thing. It's not, I answered. She shook her head slowly, as if disappointed in a stranger. You don't get how this works. I do, I said. That's why I'm not canceling. Her voice sharpened. So you're choosing a doctor over your own daughter? I'm choosing myself, I said quietly. The room felt smaller after that. Her husband shifted in his seat, gaze sliding away from mine. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm making it clear. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something expensive I'd helped pay for years earlier. You don't just stop being who you've always been. I held her eyes. I don't get to keep being that person. For a moment, no one spoke. I felt my hands tremble, but I didn't pull them back. This wasn't defiance. It was survival. And once the word left my mouth, there was no way to take it back. It happened faster than I expected, but not faster than I understood. My daughter took a sharp breath, like she was steadying herself. Her hand hovered between us for a second too long. I saw her glance sideways, checking if her husband was watching. He was, "Don't do this," he muttered. Not to her, but to me. I barely had time to turn before her palm struck my cheek. The sound was flat and loud, the kind that fills a room and leaves it empty at the same time. My chair scraped backward. I caught myself on the table, fingers gripping the edge to stay upright. For a moment, no one moved. My face burned. Heat spreading down my jaw and into my neck, I tasted metal. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stood there, stunned by how easily she had crossed that line. Her husband was the first to speak. You need to understand her perspective, he said, voice calm, almost instructional. This moment matters to her. I looked at him. You think that was okay? He didn't hesitate. I think her future matters. My daughter's breathing was uneven now. Anger shaking her shoulders. You never support me when it counts. She snapped. You make everything harder. I pressed my tongue against my teeth, grounding myself. You hit me. She scoffed. You're fine. Her husband stepped closer to her side. She's not wrong, he added. You can take a hit. You've always been strong. A part of me settled then. Not numb, but focused. clear-headed in a way I hadn't felt at the table before. I straightened slowly, letting go of the table. So that's it. I said, my life is optional. No one denied it. My daughter folded her arms. Chin lifted. If you walk out, don't come back expecting things to be the same. I nodded once. They won't be. I reached for my bag, movements deliberate. My cheek throbbed with every heartbeat, a steady reminder of what had just been taken from me. As I turned toward the door, her husband called after me, irritation edging his voice. You're overreacting. I paused long enough to look back. I'm finally reacting at all. Then I left the table. The house. And the version of myself that had taught them this was acceptable. The front door closed behind me without a sound. That surprised me. I'd expected it to slam, to announce itself, to make the moment official. Instead, it shut gently, like the house was glad to let me go. I stood on the porch for a second, bag hanging from my shoulder, keys still warm in my hand. Inside, voices resumed lower now, irritated, already rearranging the story so my absence would make sense to them. I didn't go far. I walked to the end of the driveway and stopped. My hands were shaking, not from anger, but from the weight of what I'd just done. At 63, I had been conditioned to hold everything together, but tonight, I chose to step away from their expectations, into the unknown. My phone buzzed once. A message from my daughter. You're being ridiculous. I didn't answer. Another followed. Quicker this time. Come back inside. We can talk. Talk had always meant correction, adjustment. Me folding myself smaller until the room felt calm again. I opened the car door and sat behind the wheel. The seat felt unfamiliar, like I was borrowing it from someone braver. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel and breathed until my chest stopped tightening. A third message arrived. Don't make this worse. I turned the phone face down. The house lights glowed in the rear-view mirror. Familiar, yet distant. Everything I'd maintained there was still in place, but it existed on their terms, not mine. I started the engine. The sound cut through the quiet. Final and real. As I pulled away, I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I wasn't turning back. Leaving was terrifying. Staying had become impossible. I spent the night in my car, parked on a side street where no one knew me. By morning, my phone was full. My daughter's name lit the screen again and again. I didn't open the messages. I didn't need to. I already knew the tone sharp first, then pleading, then angry once more. What surprised me wasn't the volume. It was the timing. By mid-morning, her husband called. We need to talk. He started. Voice tight. There's an issue. I let the silence stretch, waiting, letting him process that my choice had already shifted the ground beneath us. The account didn't go through, he continued. The card was declined. I canceled my authorization, I replied. He exhaled hard. You can't just do that. I can, I said. It's in my name. Another pause. That money, this was earmarked for the show, right? It was for emergencies. I corrected. That's how you asked for it. He lowered his voice. Like reason might work better. You've always handled this stuff. Bills, transfers, keeping things smooth, because someone had to. He hesitated. So you're punishing her now. I'm stepping away. By the afternoon, my daughter finally called. This time she didn't pretend. Why are the payments bouncing, she demanded. The rental company called me. I removed myself. I answered. From all of it. Her laugh was thin. You're being dramatic. You built your life on my credit, I replied. That's not drama. She snapped back. You never complained before. I didn't realize I was holding everything up alone. Her voice sharpened. So you're just going to let things fall apart? I'm letting go. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in my lap, hands steady now. For years, I'd handled the quiet work signing, backing, smoothing over gaps when plans exceeded reality. I told myself it was temporary, that once things settled, I'd step back. But temporary had turned into permanent without anyone asking me. That night, as more messages stacked up, I understood something clearly for the first time. I wasn't support. I was structure. And without me, the weight had nowhere to go. The calls didn't stop after that. They multiplied. My daughter left a voicemail early the next morning. Breathless. The venue wants a deposit we already promised. They won't wait. I listened once and deleted it. An hour later, her husband tried again. The bank flagged the transfer. He pressed. They need confirmation from you. I'm not confirming anything, I replied. This is embarrassing, he snapped. People are asking questions. They should, I answered, then ended the call. By midday, the tone changed. The messages grew careful, measured. Less accusation, more urgency. We just need a short extension, my daughter typed. Until things settle. Things hadn't truly settled, they'd only been managed, quietly and invisibly, by me. Later that afternoon, a number I didn't recognize flashed on my screen. I let it go to voicemail. A woman introduced herself as a coordinator from the production company. Professional, polite, concerned. We've had trouble processing payments connected to your account. She explained. Until it's resolved, we can't release the equipment. I didn't call back. That evening, my daughter finally came unfiltered. Do you have any idea what this is doing to me? She demanded. People are starting to talk. I know, I said. They talked when I held everything together, too. You just didn't hear it. She scoffed. This is sabotage. This is distance. Her husband cut in, frustration bleeding through. You're enjoying this. I'm surviving it. Silence followed, heavy and unfamiliar. Over the next few days, I watched the cracks widen without lifting a finger. Approvals stalled. Deadlines slipped. Apologies replaced confidence. Each problem traced back to something I used to handle quietly, efficiently, without thanks. I hadn't taken anything from them. I hadn't made threats or demands. I had simply stepped away from a role no one admitted I was playing. And without that weight being carried, everything they'd built on top of it began to shift. By the end of the week, the story they told about me had grown sharp edges. My daughter left a message that wasn't meant for me, but she sent it anyway. She's always been controlling. Her voice insisted. She wants to punish me for growing up. I listened without reacting. Control was what she'd lost, not what I'd taken. Her husband followed with a call later that night. You've put us in an impossible position, he argued. Partners are pulling back. They think we're unstable. I didn't call them. I replied, You did, he scoffed. You're acting like you don't care. I care about what's mine. The next day, my phone rang again. This time it was a woman from the bank's compliance department, calm and precise. She asked why several long-standing authorizations had been revoked at once. Because they're no longer appropriate, I told her. She acknowledged the change and noted it in the file. We'll need updated signatures for any future activity. There were none. That afternoon, my daughter showed up unannounced where I was staying. Her eyes were red, makeup hastily fixed. You've ruined everything, she snapped the moment she saw me. People don't trust us anymore. I met her gaze. They trusted my name. She shook her head. You should have talked to me first. I did, I replied, for years. Her husband lingered behind her, jaw tight. This didn't have to get this far. It got this far because no one listened before. She laughed bitterly. So you're just done with us? I'm done paying the price for your choices. For a moment, she looked like she might argue again. Instead, her shoulders dropped, anger giving way to something closer to panic. This is your fault. she whispered. I watched them leave together, still united by blame, not responsibility. As long as that story held, nothing would change. I closed the door and felt the quiet settle around me. Not relief, not triumph, just the steady understanding that I hadn't betrayed anyone. I had simply stopped being the answer to problems that were never mine to solve. The clinic receptionist looked up and smiled. Name Haley Caldwell, I answered. I have an appointment. She nodded, tapped the keyboard, then slid a clipboard toward me. You're right on time. Those words landed softly and stayed. Right on time. I took the pen and signed my name. No one needed to approve it. Not this time. In the waiting area, a nurse called me back, voice steady, practiced. She checked my vitals, asked a few questions, listened without rushing me. When the doctor came in, he spoke plainly about next steps, tests to schedule, choices to make. No drama, no pressure, just facts and care. My phone buzzed once in my purse. I didn't look. Afterward, the billing coordinator explained coverage and timelines. We'll work with you, she offered. I thanked her and meant it. On the way out, I stopped by the desk and set follow-up dates. The calendar filled with my handwriting. It felt like claiming ground. That afternoon, my daughter called. I answered. You really went through with it, she muttered. I did. A pause stretched between us. Her husband's voice hovered in the background. Tense. So what happens now? I handle my health. I replied. You handle your life. That's it, she pressed. That's enough. She exhaled, sharp and frustrated. You're choosing this over us. I'm choosing myself. I told her. That doesn't erase you. It just ends the bargain I never agreed to. The line went quiet. When it ended, I didn't feel victorious. I felt aligned. Later, I unpacked the bag I'd been living out of and folded my clothes into a drawer that was mine alone. I made tea and let it cool. Unhurried, the evening passed without negotiation. There's a lesson in all of this that took me decades to learn. Love doesn't require self-erasure. Support isn't ownership, and boundaries aren't punishments, they're maintenance. When we confuse obligation for care, we train people to spend us to. If this story resonated, take a moment to like it, share a comment, or subscribe so more stories like this reach the people who need them. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stop financing someone else's future with our own. I didn't ruin my daughter's future. I simply refused to spend the rest of my life financing it.